If you've ever had a bottle of 7-Up, you know that it tastes refreshing and is quite unlike any other carbonated drinks on the market. Wait, you may not know that. That sentiment is pretty subjective. You may, in fact, think that 7-Up is just like any other sweetened sugar water carbonated drinks on the market. The point, though, is this. Did you know that 7-Up is probably the original bipolar medicine? You probably didn't, but it's true. This is Munchable, and today we'll be tracing the origins of 7-Up and how it used to double as a bipolar medicine. If you're an older person, or any kind of person basically, you most likely have heard of 7-Up. If you've been living under an actual rock and do not know what 7-Up is, I'll tell you. It's basically a can of sugar water. There, I said it. And no, this isn't a critique of 7-Up. It's just as sugar watery as any other canned soda like Coca-Cola, for example, or Pepsi. While 7-Up does have a lot in common with Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and by a lot we mean the fact that they are all sugary drinks, the canned drink is a lot different from them too. And you'll see exactly what I mean by this in a minute. Most carbonated drinks have peculiar recipes. For example, in our past video on Coca-Cola, we stated that it used to contain a Schedule 1 controlled substance. In the case of 7-Up, that peculiar recipe is an actual mind-altering drug that has now been banned. But how did this happen? How and why did 7-Up contain a banned substance? Well, to answer that question, we've got to start from the very beginning. Like all great and somewhat weird and maybe illegal stories, the story of 7-Up started with one man. The name of that man? Charles Leeper Grigg. Charles Grigg was born to Charles L.S. Grigg and Mary Elizabeth Leeper Grigg in 1868 in Price's Branch, Missouri. At the age of 22, he would move to St. Louis to find a job. In St. Louis, he got working with several advertising companies, and that's when he decided to go into the carbonated beverage industry. However, Grigg wasn't a rich man. Even if he wanted to go out on his own to make drinks, how would he fund his dream? So he had to pull himself up by the proverbial bootstraps and actually work. In the year 1919, Grigg was working as a salesman in a manufacturing company owned by Vess Jones. It was at this company that Grigg was finally able to invent and market his first carbonated drink. The name? Whistle. Weird name, right? At least it sounds weird to me. Does it sound weird to you? Sadly, the pronunciation rights of the drink went to the company he was working for. Hey, quickly, go into the comments section and tell us what you would call your own carbonated drink brand and why you would choose that name. Have you done that? Great. So where were we? Ah, yes. Griggs named his drink Whistle. Despite what you may think about the name Whistle, it was fairly popular, and the success of this drink meant that Grigg was promoted to the position of sales and marketing manager. However, this wasn't to last. The owner of the company, Vess Jones, eventually got into a fight with Grigg, and this led to Grigg leaving the company and Whistle behind. Suddenly, Grigg was at square one again, but he wasn't out of a job for too long. After all, he'd invented the widely popular Whistle drink. Yes, despite its weird name, it still got really popular. Yes, people in 1920s America were pretty weird. You have no idea. He eventually got a job at the Warner Jenkinson Company where he was tasked with developing flavoring agents for soft drinks. During his time at this company, Grigg developed his second drink, and the name was Howdy. Yes, really. The name was actually Howdy, and it was an orange-flavored drink with 14% sugar. Yes, you heard that right. 14%! Are you shocked? Well, don't be. A can of Pepsi contains about 10 spoonfuls of sugar, so Grigg was probably onto something. However, unlike he did with his first drink, Griggs didn't offer this one to the company he was working with. Instead, he partnered with financier Edmund G. Ridgway and lawyer Frank Gladney and formed the Howdy Company. As expected, the company grew rapidly. Howdy, despite its name, or even because of its name, was selling out in stores. Imagine a drink being named Howdy in today's world. Would it be successful? Not really, but like I said, 1920s America was sufficiently weird. 9 years after founding the Howdy Company, Grigg came up with a recipe that would eventually become what we know today as 7-Up. The product was initially named Bib Label Lithiated Lemon Lime Soda and was launched in 1929. Griggs didn't just come up with this recipe out of the blue. It was actually done in reaction to a soda market that was saturated with orange sodas. And of these orange sodas, Orange Crush was the biggest. It was impossible to go against Orange Crush and win, so the logical thing to do would be to create another niche. Something Orange Crush wouldn't be able to touch or crush. He spent 2 years working on the project, and while he was experimenting with lemon lime, he came up with what is today known as 7-Up. Unfortunately, he was a bit too late. Other people had also gone into experimenting with lemon lime, and by the time Grig's drink, the bib label lithiated lemon lime soda, was ready to launch, the market was already saturated again. And I know what you're thinking, what a weird and frustratingly long name. Well, it's easy to knock Grig for coming up with yet another weird name, but don't be too quick to judge. The name of this new drink was a clever marketing tactic. At the time of the development of the drink, lithium citrate was a mood-stabilizing drug, and it was used as a psychiatric treatment of manic states and bipolar disorder. It was used to cure a number of mental ills, from bipolar disorders to manic states. Lithium citrate cured them all. But let's return to the question. How could this long and almost impossible to pronounce name be a marketing tactic? Well, bib label lithiated lemon lime soda wasn't just a soda. In fact, it was marketed as a hangover drug. You wouldn't want to buy a cure for your hangover if it was named something fancy and pedestrian like Howdy or Whistle, would you? In fact, Griggs once joked that 7-Up was named 7-Up because it could cure all 7 kinds of hangovers. Did you know there were 7? The name bib label lithiated lemon lime soda gave a certain prestige to the drink. It sounded like a drug, and you know that marketing is mostly about what a thing sounds and looks like, not what it actually does. With the name done and thousands of products made, Griggs started selling his drinks. Unfortunately, 2 weeks later, the stock market crashed, and this started the Great Depression. Unexpectedly, the difficult-to-pronounce drink wasn't very successful from the get-go. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a drink with such a terrible name be successful? Griggs should have seen this coming. Well, if you thought that, you're wrong. The reason bib label lithiated lemon lime soda wasn't successful at first was that it had about 600 competitors that had the same lime flavor that it had, and they all cost less than it. However, it didn't take Grig long to correct this. After reducing the price, he renamed the drink and called it 7-Up lithiated lemon soda. Now, this wasn't an ideal name. It was a step up from the former one, and sales began to improve. But wait, where did the 7 come from? Well, we don't really know why the name 7-Up was added. However, conventional wisdom says that it refers to the 7 main ingredients in it, which are carbonated water, sugar, citrus oils, citric acid, sodium citrate, and lithium citrate. Yes, that's right. Even after the rebrand, lithium citrate remained a huge part of the 7-Up recipe. So we know where the 7 came from, but what about the up? Why not 7 down? Well, the answer seems to be that Griggs was referring to the lift that the lithium citrate in the drink gave people. Yes, that's correct. 7-Up was named 7-Up because it could make people get high, and thus go up. Weird but true. Do you know what's even weirder? Grig didn't like the 7-Up name at first. In fact, he originally wanted the drink to be simply known as Click. Unfortunately, that name was taken and he had to settle with 7-Up. In 1936, Grig made the evolution complete and he changed the name of the drink from 7-Up lithiated lemon soda to just 7-Up. Of course, 7-Up still had lithium citrate, but it wasn't in the name anymore. 7-Up was a way cooler name and it was shorter to pronounce as well. The next 10 years or so were simply amazing for 7-Up. The brand grew so popular that in the mid-40s, it became the 3rd best-selling soft drink in the world, despite having hundreds of competitors. Sadly, Grig didn't live long enough to see this become reality. He died in 1940, but the Howdy Company and 7-Up didn't. In 1948, the government eventually realized that not only was lithium citrate a dangerous drug with harmful side effects, it was also a major ingredient in many sodas. Shocked at the state of affairs, the chemical was immediately banned in soft drinks and it was removed from the 7-Up recipe. I know what you're thinking. Did the removal of the drug change the taste of the drink? Well, we cannot know for sure. However, what we do know is that 7-Up sales didn't suffer. So it either didn't change the taste at all, or people honestly didn't really care. Which do you think it was? Do you think people didn't care? Or the change in ingredients didn't affect the taste? Do let us know in the comments section. So there you have it. The original 7-Up not only cured hangovers, but it also gave you a mild high, and it was sold over the counter for years without anyone stopping it. It's incredible that seemingly ordinary brands like 7-Up would have a history so intriguing, but it is what it is, I guess. The idea for this video was sent in by a subscriber. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and if you want to know more about a particular food brand, send it to us. Who knows, our next video may be of that food brand. This is Munchable. Munch on!